Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are doing good. Today, I just want to talk about how God is different from all the Eastern, Near East, whatever gods. They're not the same. The biblical authors, through their writings, shows us this through biblical narratives that, yes, have similarities surrounding them, but they use those similarities that people know to express their God and show how different He is. Now, you're probably saying, well, what do you mean? Well, let me give you a little example. So, let's take Moses and Aaron for an example, and how they went to the Pharaoh to turn the staff into a snake and that. So we're gonna go to that real quick, because I think it's pretty good to know. So what we have here is the story of Moses and Aaron changing their staff into a serpent. It shows the Hebrew leaders, that their action is an attack on Pharaoh and the Egyptians. And it strikes at the very heart of Egyptian belief. It does. In the first place, on the front of Pharaoh's crown was an enraged female serpent, a very angry, very enraged female serpent. Cobra. It's a serpent cobra. And I can't say the name, but it's called probably a Urias, but it's Uraeus. And they believed this serpent was energized with divine potency and sovereignty. So keep that in mind. They believed that this serpent, because of its poison, had divine connection, divine potency and sovereignty. It was the very emblem of Pharaoh's power, the symbolization of his deification and majesty. Moses had Aaron fling the rod snake before Pharaoh. That was directly assaulting, because he flung the rod snake right before him. That was assaulting. That is he was directly assaulting that token of pharaonic sovereignty. The scene was one of polemical taunting. And polemical is a really cool theology to look up. This is what the authors are trying to get across. So, Aaron's rod swallowed up the staff of the Egyptian magicians. The pharaonic deity and omnipotence were being denounced and rejected outright. Using that story of the staff, of Moses' staff, devouring the other magician's staff. The Yahweh snake devouring the Egyptian snake, showing God's sovereignty, his ultimate power. So it's pretty cool to think about that. God will constantly, through story, was showing his power. And I definitely believe that he is different. He is almighty. He's above all. And through story we can see this. The The purpose that the authors did this, is to demonstrate the essential distinctions between Hebrew thought and ancient Near Eastern beliefs and practices. And here's another cool thing to put together, if I can find it. Nope, it's back a little further more. You gotta keep notes down, Notes are good. So here we go. So, if you've noticed, when you do study these other gods and stuff, what I've noticed is that all societies of the ancient Near East, except for the Hebrews, save the Hebrews, were polytheists. The gods themselves were immanent, that is, personified in various powers and elements of the universe. These gods were not omnipotent, but were restricted in power to the capacity of the natural elements they personified. In addition, the temperament of the gods often reflected human nature, so that the deities frequently acted in a depraved, perverted manner. I mean, think about it, dude. Horus, when it was Horus and Seth, I believe it was, who had that masculine battle. First, they wrestled naked, won. Then one put semen in his salad, and that was like the ultimate win. And so Thoth took that semen, and then in that emerald thing he wears and the gem, he put the semen there. And I believe it was Horus that won. It was Horus's semen that he put right there. That tells you something, dude. They definitely act in a perverted manner. Okay, and so this is to the contrary. Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, is presented as transcendent. That is, set apart from the cosmos. He works within the universe, but he is not part of it. The universe is God's creation, but it is not God. And another cool little example for that is, there's this cool little, let me see if I can find it, if I put it down. And I might not have, which I should have, which I probably did. Just give me a second. I thought I did. So, a cool little distinction that I wrote between the Egyptian gods and then like the Bible God. So in Egypt, yes, it's one creator God, although various gods fill this role. So it's like God, but multiple little gods that make up with a one God, or whatever. In our Bible, it's just one creator. So that's pretty cool. Oh, and what's so weird is there's a myth about Ra, and one of the myths describes him creating the gods Shu and Tefnut by an act of masturbation. That's pretty wild. But here we go. This is the one I was looking for. The Enuma Elish. It's Enuma and then Elish. So here's the complete beginning difference between like the God in Genesis and then this God here. So they call an Enuma Elish in the very beginning. The divine spirit and cosmic matter are coexistent and co-eternal. What if you just heard what I just read about how the Hebrew God is transcendent and outside of everything? Well, it's just what Genesis says, dude. As a divine spirit creates cosmic matter and exists independently of it. So we have two differences now in the Enuma Elish and the Egyptian difference. So it's pretty cool to know these things and to learn how great our God is described. So, and there's something about the word deep in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 when it says the word deep. They always say that's to do with Tiamat and stuff like that. But if we've noticed though that the Hebrew creation account simply understands the deep as the primal world ocean that God created at the beginning of time. It's just an ocean. Remember, the wisdom in the very beginning, I made a video, was sustaining that chaos, that watery chaos, until God was done. And then after that, after he did first he started with the lights, and he went on from there, and he started adding on to this watery chaos to create Earth. So there's a lot of cool things that we need to um, really understand, and I hope people will get that, So what we do notice is that biblical authors stripped the ancient pagan literatures of their mythological elements, infused them with the sublimities of their God, and refuted the pagan myths by identifying the Holy Lord as the true creator and ruler of the cosmos and of history. And another one would be Baal, which is funny. People try to relate God to Baal and say that he's Baal, but dude, in the whole Old Testament, it's about fighting Baal. And God even says he doesn't want to be called Baal. He says that, dude. He doesn't want to be called Master, because that's what Baal is. It means Lord, Master, but Master mainly. So what we notice is that God will be the Baal will be described as a storm god riding in the controlling the rain and the storm. Well, when the Hebrews talk about him, they talk about him as higher than that. He's more exalted than that. He is the one that does more than just controls it in the rains and storms. He orders it. It bows before him. It quakes when he comes through the clouds. The earth quakes. Everything does, because God is a way above that. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. That's what I believe. Yahweh is above all gods. And through the authors, we can see that through the stories and the narratives that they would use that surround them. Yes, you'll see some similarities, and maybe the Gilgamesh flood, or whatever flood you want to think of, or whatever story. You're gonna see a slight difference in how Yahweh is exalted higher than the God that they're or higher is exalted higher through whatever story that they tell. That they make sure that Yahweh is exalted higher, because He is the Almighty. He is the before, the during, the after, the forever. The creator of everything. So I hope you guys like that. Thank you for watching. Black Rose Christian out. Thank you for listening to Turkey Talk. Walk the faith. Deuces.